Okay, so to clear everything up, we did what happens after you die, part 1 last week. But when I made it, I didn't actually intend it for it to be a part 1 and part 2. Realized in about 3/4 of our way into the time last week that we needed to make it a part 2. Already had made How to Let Your Light Shine for this week. So we're going to do How to Let Your Light Shine this week to keep on track. And we'll do part 2 of what happens after you die next week, Lord willing. Questions? All right. Let's open up our Bibles to Matthew 5. We'll start in Matthew 5. Does anyone need any more copies of tonight's lesson? I think we're good. All right, before we get into the lesson, let's go to God in a word of prayer. Our great Father in heaven, holy is your name. There's no one like you. You are unique in all of the universe. You are great and sovereign. Your mass and your might are unfathomable. We are so very impressed by you, and we are in awe of you. Father, God, we love what you've done for us through your Son, Jesus Christ. We love the relationship that we have with you. We recognize that you are our good Father and that you want the best for us and that you've accommodated our eternal destiny through Christ. And we're grateful for that. We're grateful for the hope that we have. We're grateful for the time that we get to spend together as your sons and daughters tonight and study your word. We ask that you bless our study. Please bless the studies downstairs. And in Jesus' name, amen. Matthew 5, Sermon on the Mount. It's been called the Magna Carta of Jesus' teachings. If you want to know what Christianity is about, of course, there's the whole word to look at, but look at the Sermon on the Mount, and it's wonderful stuff. Of course, Jesus opens up his sermon saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the gentle," and things like that. And then he talks about them directly in verse 13, saying, you are the salt of the earth, but if the salt has become tasteless, how can it become salty again? It's no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. And then he says to the crowds that were there, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. Then he asks rhetorically, does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house? So let your light shine before men in such a way that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. We understand a very fundamental concept. We are the light of the world. This quarter, we're going over material that people have asked for. One of the assignments was how can we let our light shine? And so that's what we're doing tonight. Maybe you've heard people talk about being the light of the world. Maybe you're not exactly sure what that means. What does that look like in real life? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about what it means to be a light in the world, in this dark, dark world. All right, how do we let our light shine? Let's talk about it. What I wanted to talk about first was being countercultural. Study question number 1 is, what does it mean to be counter to the culture around us? What does that, in general, what do you think of when you think of counterculture? Yes, sir, and then yes, sir. Means being the opposite of the culture. Yep, I like that, sir.
And it seems like from the very beginning that Christians have always been the counterculture. We think of the rest of the world as we're the counterculture.
That's exactly right. We are the original counterculture. So it doesn't matter what, time frame that you live in, no matter what, place in history that you live in, we're different in a very good way. When the Bible describes the evil in the world, in the rebellion, in the ignorance, in the willful disobedience, the Bible describes that as what? Dark. It's dark. Yes?
We just say that the light wouldn't really shine if it was all light.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we are in a dark place.
So the world is dark in their understanding. The world is dark in their minds. The world is dark in what they want to do. They're dark in the sense that they don't have a solid future and a hope, and they know it. And so the kingdom, the opposite of God's kingdom is the kingdom of Satan, or darkness, the kingdom of darkness. But our God is the God of light. And in fact, in Him there is no shifting shadow at all. Every good thing comes from Him. And so He's transferred us out of the domain of darkness and into the kingdom of light. We are counter to the world. You want to talk about identity? That's who we are. Okay. All right. Anyone else? What does it mean when you think of counterculture? What do you think of? What does it mean to be countercultural?
Probably you can be a minority.
Yeah. Definitely going to be in the minority. Jesus would say things like, the way to destruction is broad and many who travel on it, but the way to the kingdom, way to the Father is very narrow, and there's few who find it. Yes, sir.
I'd say be one that doesn't fit in.
Yep, you're gonna be in the minority. You're gonna be one who doesn't fit in. Yes.
You're described as a peculiar people.
Yeah, we're strangers and aliens. We're peculiar. I tell you what, when I was a teenager, those were not words I wanted to hear, right? I did not want to be described as peculiar or strange, even though I definitely was, still am actually, but especially when I was a teenager. No, don't tell me I'm strange and I don't fit in. I totally want to fit in. Christians don't fit in. Christians break the mold. That's who we are. Yes?
We are representatives of Christ, so if we want to let our light shine, we're going to represent
Yep,
Christ.
absolutely. Anyone here, I won't ask you about the cave thing, the lights in the cave, because it seems like everyone has been through that experience. But anyone here seen a lighthouse on one of the coasts, like maybe over on the West Coast in the Pacific Ocean, or maybe a lighthouse over in Maine or somewhere on the East Coast? Anyone's ever seen anything like that? Okay. Anyone ever seen them on the Great Lakes? Yeah. Carrie and I got to see them on the Great Lakes. We saw them originally on our trip last year over to the Great Lakes, and we went there again this year because we liked it so much. And this time we spent a lot of time looking at the lighthouses. Interesting fact about some of the lighthouses. I mean, they were built a relatively long time ago, like in the early 1900s. Back then, they could reach out to maybe like 9 miles, right? And then since then, some of their lamps have gotten some upgrades, so they can go out to like 19 miles, right? But what's interesting is that it's usually just like one lamp, one big lamp, solitary lamp. And correct me if I'm wrong, but unlike a lot of the lighthouses on the coasts, which warn ships from, hey, there's like rocks over here, don't come over here. A lot of these lighthouses are right near ports, as in, here's where you need to come. Here's where the safe harbor is. And so one single light shining for maybe 19 miles, letting people who are looking for help or looking for rest come. That's the idea that I get when I read about Jesus talking about we're a city set on a hill, or we're like a lamp on a lamp post. Just one single shining light. We're weird, we're peculiar, we're different, we're countercultural, but we help people, right? Right? Okay, that's in general, that's the idea. That wasn't the whole sentence, though. In Matthew 5:16, he did say, "Let your light shine before others," but that wasn't the whole sentence. He gives us the reason why it's important to shine, and that is to what? It's to glorify God. That's the whole idea. So the idea is that people will see our good works and glorify God. Let's flesh that out a little bit. How does that work? Yep. Sir.
Well, even if people are not professing Christians or whatever, don't have a whole lot of faith in God, you do something for them that really makes a difference in their life. They thank God. So inadvertently, we're doing that whether they have much belief in that or not. They realize there's something beyond us.
Good. All right. Sir?
A lot of people they look at Christians, and maybe they're not Christians, but they don't like hypocrites in the church. And so, if somebody's living a Christian life, a faith life, to them, then they glorify God in that. They don't like hypocrites in the church.
Okay. All right. I think that's fair. Who else? How do we get people to see our good works, but not us? Because when we do good things, we do shine. But that's never the point of doing good works. Jesus said, so that they're going to see our good works and glorify God. I'll give you an example of what I'm thinking about. I've been on social media for a long, long time, pretty much ever since it started. And I've been a preacher for about that long. And so I have a set of preachers that I follow. I've followed throughout the years. I'm friends with many of them, know them, blah, blah, blah. But what's interesting is that preachers sometimes have to market for the churches that they serve. Or they have like a blog that they want to get out. Sometimes preachers write books or do stuff on radio. The idea is that there's a light to be shined there on social media. I've seen that done well, but I've also seen cases in which it sure looks like to me, at least from the outside, like this preacher is shining to get attention for himself and not necessarily call attention to God. So the question is, how do we get people to see our good works but not see us? Alan, do you have your hand up, sir?
I was going to say a basic answer is we're going to be different, and that's what stands out. I mean, it's almost, just being a Christian and being godly, say for example, being at work and an incident that might be similar to what somebody might just cuss up a storm or whatever. Maybe, the old illustration of, hitting your hand with the hammer or whatever and missing the nail. And then the Christian doesn't, let out a bunch of curse words and so forth. I mean, it's just by not doing what is typically done, it shines.
Yeah.
The difference is no. You're not trying to be different. You're trying to be godly, but that's going to be different in a world of ungodly.
Good. All right. Thank you, sir.
From my standpoint, I think what it is when you see others complaining about the system or work or life, they're still good people. And you can still be doing a lot of good things, but when you're looking for all the good, even when it's still bad, you even praise the bad with the good. Sometimes they're going to look for why are you so much different when we work in the same location and do the same thing, and we're up against the same adversary, but you're handling it different. I have the opportunity, because I have a lot of men and women come to me at work and want to vent their anger and frustration throughout their week of the day. And it's important how I respond to their complaints, because if I buy into their complaints and don't show them some goodness at the end of the day, it's going to be, so that's one way you show the glory. What way they'll ask you, what's the difference? What makes you want to, even when it's bad, do good? Because God has went through a lot worse than I have throughout his life, or Jesus' life. So I think that's one way you can slip the example.
Yeah, sir? Yes.
Well, 1 Peter 4 talks about they think it's strange that you run not to the same excess of riot or dispensation. And I think our choices a lot of times and how we feel about those choices, I'm not going to do this and I'm good with that. I'm really happy about that because I want to stay as far away from that as possible. And then people ask of the hope that lies within you, and I do my best to follow the Word of God and trying to be a good Christian.
Yeah. So, anytime something good happens to us or we accomplish something good for the Lord, it's super helpful if we deflect off of ourselves or from ourselves and say something good that glorifies Him. Like, how can I get through this thing at work? Well, I am a Christian and God's been good to me. Just something like that. Versus, well, hey, it took me years to kind of develop this mindset, and myself, and I did it. I think it's a great example of what you're talking about, of what we've been talking about. Yep. Yes.
Even the best or the worst of times that we have, we want it to be a good day. We want to let people know it's a good day to be here, no matter what's bad happening in our lives or what's good happening. It's a good day to be here before God.
Okay. Sir.
I was just thinking about light. Light is so powerful, so powerful. It reminds you of going into an old building or something like that, and you turn on the light and all the cockroaches that are there, they run away, right?
Okay.
Or anything that's hiding runs away from the light. And we need confidence to see the power of light, that really the world is described as hiding in the darkness. They're ashamed of their works and they want to do their works at night. And as a Christian, by being the light, we need to realize that we're more powerful than darkness, and to not be ashamed of that. And usually people run, they don't challenge. I don't feel if you're a good light that they can challenge the light, because they know they're being exposed, as it says in Ephesians. It says, but rather expose them. And we need to have a mindset that, hey, let it shine. Let us be radiant and living that light. And over in 1 John it says, and darkness did not overcome it. And that's, of course, referring to Jesus being the light. But darkness cannot overcome light. Light is stronger. I mean, I remember being in Mammoth Caves, they turned the lights all out, and then we just struck a match. And get that one little match lit up that whole cave. That's how powerful light is. And so, as Christians, be confident.
Yep, good. All right. Yep. Unless God decides to end the world tonight, I know with confidence that there will be light tomorrow morning. Every morning, the sun's going to rise. And when it comes to light and being powerful, it's incredibly powerful. So when it comes to us shining our light so that people can see our good works and glorify God, I think the answer is just go do your thing, whatever it is. Whatever influence you have with people, go be with them, go serve them, whether it's your family, your friends, people at school, people at work, people in your community. Go do good things for them, and don't do it calling attention to yourself, but it's going to be seen, and when it is, and when people talk about it, give them credit. Carrie Lynn.
And maybe reframing the conversation too, because there's so many people that say things like, well, I hope that works out for you, or yeah, I'll be thinking of you, but reframing it like, I will pray for that for you tonight, or how can I pray for you about that, or may God bless that in your life, instead of talking about words like hope and I hope you get lucky. No, I don't believe. I may God bless you and bring those good things.
Yeah, so reframing your discussion, use words of faith.
Yes.
Yeah, and people are definitely notice that. I notice that every time that like a checkout, like a clerk she'll say like, bless you, or something like that. And I'm like, hey, you're religious. Yeah, because people who have faith in their life shine like that. Yes, sir.
I think a lot of it has to do with our attitude.
Mm-hmm.
We do what we do, and our motivation. Ephesians 2:10 says that God gave us these things to do, and it's because of His grace that we do. And
Yes,
our
sir.
thankfulness and our gratefulness to what He's done. So if we let that be who we are throughout our lives, when we do things, it'll glorify God, because that's who we are. Why we do what we do is because of God and what He's done for us. So I think that kind of thing helps.
It's
Not
wonderful.
us even saying the words necessarily.
Yep. Good. Sir.
Talking with a fellow yesterday, and I have a lot of things that are old, and I keep them. And he asked me about that, and I said, well, my dad taught me that if you buy something of quality and take care of it, it'll last a long time. And I think we can use that same mentality when someone says, well, why do you do it like this? I said, well, because I have another father, that gave me instructions that said, if you do it this way, this is how it will work out well for you. So we can take an easy earthly example and turn it into spiritual, like saying, because I was taught to do it like this.
Very good.
Where I got that information from.
What keeps us from fulfilling Christ's instruction to let your light shine? What keeps us from shining? This is study question number 3. Yes, sir. Please.
I think the worst thing is something that Stan brought up. It's like these lights, they work fine when they're flickering. You just assume they be off because they're just annoying. And so when we're not consistent, we might as well just not be there because it's going to be as bad.
People don't like church hypocrites. People don't like hypocrites in general. Yeah, and so when there's an on and off to the light switch, it does get hard on people, and I like how you described it, annoying. Yeah, turns people off. Yeah. What else can keep us from shining? Sir.
Lack of courage or fear. I just think about Apostle Peter, so bold and says, Lord, I'm going to be with it in the end and stand up for you. But when he was warming his hands by the fire with a bunch of unbelievers, with his master on trial and not knowing how all that's going to go, see why that happened, and the same can happen.
Yeah, so fear, doubt, indecision, kind of keeping in the topic of what we've been kind of discussing last week and what we will discuss next week, Lord willing. If you're not sure about where you're going, if you're not confident in your relationship with God, if you're not confident you're going to be with Him after you die, are you going to be wanting to talk about the gospel with other people and share with the other people? Usually not. Because if you're not confident in it, you have some hesitation. That's one reason I can think of not sharing. Frankly, though, when we have sin in our life, when we have darkness in our life, that keeps us from sharing the light. You can't share what you don't have. You can't shine what you don't have. And so when there's sinful habits, when there's sinful thoughts in us, when we're really struggling with darkness in us, that can and does keep people from shining. What are some other things that keep us from shining? Yes?
We have to stay attached to the light.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're reflecting His light. This isn't my light that's shining, it's His
Yep.
light.
Yep.
So if we're not with Him, and we're not in fellowship with Him, and to your point about if we've got darkness in us, we're not going to do that. But so we have to stay attached. My phone will run for a little while, but I got to plug it in there once in a while to recharge it. We need to stay charged. So.
In the illustration that Jesus gives, I like to think, and this is in verse 15, I like to think of us as the lamps. You know, if you ever seen like an oil lamp, one of those old kerosene lamps, or just one of the lighthouse lamps, they're made of glass, and they're just enclosures of glass. They're lamps, and they have something lighting them up, electricity, oil, whatever it is. Jesus dwells in us, like the light of the world. This is my point that I made at the start of the lesson. We're in Christ. He's in us now, and He's the one doing the shining, like Phil talked about. Yeah. Yes, sir?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, sir. Yeah. All right. So there are many things that can get in our way of shining our light, but let's get to study question number 4. Guys, I've actually got to study question number 4, like the last study question. I'm super happy about this as a teacher because we don't have like 2 minutes left. We've got like 7, which is a lot of time. So how can we shine in what we say? Let's just take it in an order. How can we shine in what we say and how we talk? Yes. Sean.
Well, I think some people get worried over politics, and I'm not trying to go there other than the fact that our confidence has to come from who's ever in power. God put him there. I may not understand why, but if He's got him there, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to give my best each day, and I'm not going to sweat and strain over it. There's other things I need to focus on. And when people ask me about it, they're in power because God wants them to be. Let's look at our Bible or give them the passage. That conversation dies off real quick.
Preach it. Yeah, preach it. I mean, I was in Oregon for a long time, and I voted in Oregon. And I won't tell you anything more detailed than that, but I will say this. Usually I voted, it was very countercultural. Didn't count for much, though, because everyone else voted a different way. So I was real tempted. The temptation was for me to not let my shine on when it comes to politics and how I talked about the president and the governor and all the laws that were in the state of Oregon, things like that. I love what you're saying, though, because no matter who's in there, God put him or her in there because He said so. He thought there's no authority that's been put into power except for by Him, and so there's a reason for it. So just in the way we talk about our civic leaders says something about who's actually in charge and who we trust. Yes?
I just hope we work widely in order.
Yeah, like I said, I won't tell you all the details, sir.
I was just,
What happens in Oregon stays in Oregon, okay? All right.
to back up what you were saying about our speech, and but what's it say? Pray for our rulers and our country. And so when people see you praying, or, not to make a public example of it, but just as you would ordinarily pray in a restaurant before a meal, that's letting your light shine. And other people will become more emboldened also to pray, because they'll say, why am I not? Why am I not being ashamed? So that's one way that you can use your mouth and words to glorify God.
Very good. I like what Carrie had to say. I just want to say it again because I think it fits really well here. Just reframing discussions and using words of faith, even if they're not like completely churchy kind of words, but give credit to God in the good times, give credit to Him even in the difficult times. Let people know that you trust Him and things like that. That's a good way to shine with what we say. Yes, sir, and then yes, sir, and then we'll go on. Yes, sir.
And not just what we say, but how we say it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a way to say the truth. I mean, there's, like seasoned with salt. We may certainly speak out about a subject, but we can do it in a gracious manner.
You can do it in a gracious manner, which communicates respect to even our opponents, and they notice it. They do. Yes.
Paul in his Ephesian letter, 4:29, let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word is good for edification, according to the need. And then in chapter 5:4, no filthiness or silly talk or coarse jesting, but rather giving of thanks. So we can let our light shine by being countercultural, if you would, edifying people and build them up and giving them thanks.
Good. Talking about countercultural, let's talk about our entertainment. Let's talk about movies and streams and TikToks and our things like that. How can we let our light shine in the entertainment that we partake in and participate in and view? Yes.
Would you invite children or Jesus in to watch whatever you're watching?
And if you don't, why not?
Yeah.
Right?
Why are you watching?
Why are you watching it? Yes. Sometimes sometimes these kind of things are a little tricky because you're with groups of people, right? And you're sitting down and you might be watching a ball game, but you might be watching a movie. And inevitably, unless the host actually picks the thing, someone says, hey, what do you guys want to watch, right? Oh, that is that can be a mess. Spiritually, that can be a mess because sometimes there's darkness in the movies that we can choose, and we might know it. As a Christian, what's a way to let your light shine there? You might be the only one in the room saying, I'm not going to watch that because of XYZ. I'm a Christian. That's countercultural. But people are going to see it. And if that's the stand you have to make, and you're the only one, you're like a lighthouse, shining. Just a silly example, but it's happened before. What are some other ways we can let our light shine in our entertainment? Yes, sir.
What we like to listen to with our choice of music, for example.
Yep.
A lot of music out there that's not good here.
Yeah. Some of it's good, some of it's not so good. Yeah, very good. All right, what about our social media? By the way, I'm just curious, I'm not going to judge you. Who here has a social media account? Raise your hand. Like Facebook? Yeah. Can't see MySpace anymore because that's done. All right, so maybe no one's. Connie Cable, you still have a social media account. Yeah. All right, did you raise your hand? You did? Okay, I didn't see it. I'm sorry. Now I'm in trouble. All right, so how can we let our light shine there on that platform? Whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or TikTok or whatever.
Stuff you share.
Stuff you share. Yep. Vetting out what you share, right? I've been so guilty of that. Like I'll watch the short videos on mute. It's just easier sometimes. I'm like, oh hey man, my buddy will love this. So I'll send it to him and he'll listen to it on not mute and he's like, like, dude, do you realize what kind of music background's on there? I'm like, no. Yeah, right. But yeah, sir, and then sir. Okay, sir.
Understanding that people may take what you post and misunderstand it and repost it with their understanding, and you've been judged for something that you didn't mean to.
Yep. And again, I'm a preacher, so I get to talk about other preachers, I guess. I guess it's sanctified and holy. But I've noticed on social media there are preachers who will blast other preachers in ways that they never really should. That is not letting a light shine. But I also noticed that there are preachers who handle really tough subjects in really good ways. Everyone knows what they're talking about. Everyone knows, how important it is to talk about those things, but they handle them in a Christ-like, godly way. Ellen, what do you got, sir?
I would say along that line, it's very difficult to, these days, enter into a discussion, even of biblical things, with people that call themselves Christians because of the bad directions that it all gets to on, by the time you get to comment number 205.
Yeah, right.
Something, it's ugly.
Just so I could say I got through all of my material, how can we shine when we're just thinking of others? Compassion. Sophie?
You love God and you love people. If it doesn't fall in there, you don't do it.
Good. I think it's very peculiar when a person lives in a selfless way. I think it's very peculiar when you come to find out a little bit more about this person and why they do what they do, when they're constantly thinking about other people and serving other people. To me, I respect that kind of person. When they're thinking about others, that means a lot to me. And to me, that person is shining brightly. Sir?
Well, for instance of that is if, when you go to the nursing home, a lot of the people there never have any visitors. And so when you're over there visiting somebody, people notice that.
They do.
And sometimes you just have a conversation with somebody you need to come to visit. So a lot of times that opportunity presents itself.
Good.
Wow, somebody's talking.
Part 2. What happens after we die? That's, Lord willing, next week. Thank you so much.
Good evening. Our first song will be number 97, Servant Song. And that'll be out of the supplemental. Number 97. Make me a servant, just like your son, for he was a servant. Please make me one. Make me a servant. Do what you must do to make me a servant. Make me like you. Make me a servant. Take all my pride, for I would be lowly, humble inside, giving to others with all that I do, in love for my brother. Make me like you. Make me a servant, filled by your might, and may all my labors shine with your light. Show me your footsteps and what I should do, for now and forever. Make me like you.
Heroes. We all have heroes, whether it be sports or whatever. We tend to elevate another person because of their abilities or their skills, their musical talents, whatever. But it times, just looking at things here in our world as we live in today, the absolute hero worship, the idea that they're just fantastic. Well, what is a real hero? In Hebrews, the 11th chapter, I think God gives us a good idea what a hero is like. And it just names off a list of Abraham, Isaac, Sarah, just the list goes on and on. And well, what did those people do to be of such great status? Well, basically they followed God. That made them of great value in God's sight. And looking through the Bible, there's one hero that's not mentioned very often in the Bible. There's quite a few times in the Old Testament he is, but the reason he stands out to me is what he gave up and what he was willing to do to be right with God, and that's Jonathan. Jonathan was Saul's son. He was in line for the throne. His father was getting off in left field, so to speak, becoming very evil, very self-centered. And Jonathan knew, just like his father Saul knew, that David had been anointed to be king. And Saul's trying to kill David. Jonathan is trying to help him stay alive, but not to cross his father. His father tried to kill him once just because he was thinking that he was feeding information to David. But Jonathan stuck with trying to do what God wanted, trying to do what the king wanted, but all the time watching out for his friend David, because he was God's anointed. If we're going to look for heroes, we may want to look real close to home. Real close. As I look back in my life, what I would say was a hero, well, people that come back in my mind and how much I cared for, how much I respected them. My grandmother was I wouldn't say a harsh woman, but she was very matter of fact, very blunt. And if it was God's way, it's okay, but if it's not, it's not. And you just don't talk about it, you don't look around, you don't think about it otherwise, because there's only one way. And like I said, she was very blunt about it. And she kind of became my hero as a child. Because if Grandma said that that's all right, it's all right. It was reassuring to have somebody. I had confidence in my parents, and my mom was a lot like her mother, but if we're going to have heroes, let's watch what they're doing, why they're our hero. Do they really match up to God's standards of being a hero? It's amazing what you see people doing for sports idols. And that's a good word. They do use that often, idols. They basically, we get to the point of worshiping them. There is no human being that you worship, but there are a lot of them that can be respected and loved, especially our Christian brethren. Look around. Learn about your brethren. Help your brethren. And see what it'll do for your life. If there's anyone here that wishes to make it right with God, whether it be in prayers or baptism, may come forward now as we stand and sing.
I hear the Savior say, thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a grave.
In a moment, Eddie will come forward and lead a